You're Scott Fitterer, and you are going into the draft has not begun yet. Trevor Lawrence still on the board, Zach Wilson still on the board. You look at David Tepper. David Tepper says, hey, who is the best case scenario for the 8th pick for us? Who should I be rooting to still be available at 8?
Penei Sewell. To me, they are in, and if I am fully in their position, I know that I've been talking to David Tepper, who seems to have a heavy hand in a lot of the decisions recently.
Very heavy.
Yes, that he knows that we are trying to build an infrastructure for any quarterback to succeed. And it might be the one that we just traded for in Sam Darnold. It might be one that they go out and get next year during the offseason. But the best way to do that, and if I can take you back to the Panthers Super Bowl run just a few years ago, a major element of that was a quality and consistent offensive line. Now, a significant piece is also injury luck. You want injury luck to be in your favor, and we see this as a great differentiator late in seasons and in playoff runs, that almost always the same starting 5 has been that way throughout the entire season. But I could point to the Panthers roster right now and ask, do we really even feel comfortable of the starting left tackle in this moment, despite investments in that over the last few years? So in a class that is loaded with offensive line talents at multiple rounds, some might view that as, hey, why don't we then just take one in round 2 and round 3? I would say Penei Sewell has a chance of being a top 5 player at his position in the NFL.
So that was kind of my question, is what is it about Sewell that makes him that much more appetizing than somebody like, maybe moving down and getting somebody like Rashawn Slater or even in the second round when you get into guys like Leatherwood, or how, choose your second round tackle that you like?
I would just go on to say that he's clearly the top in that class. Now, I would say it's a tier of him and Slater, but I think that they might even go back to back in this draft. It's not one where you can say, hey, I'm going to drop back 10 spots, because when you look at it league wide, everyone needs to improve one of their starting tackles, basically. Like, it might be a handful of teams that say, oh yeah, we're really comfortable with their tackle situation. And look how quickly it can go into being one of your worst position groups. The Kansas City Chiefs are an extreme example of this, winning the Super Bowl 2 years ago with Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz, who Mitchell Schwartz still at the end of his career was playing like one of the best right tackles in the game. And now they basically don't have 2 starting tackles on their roster. And Penei Sewell, while, the argument can be made of 33.25-inch arms, that's not the ideal frame, and so on and so forth. He's a growing player. You see it in his game. You see it in his age, around 21 years old, and just how he plays as a hammer constantly, and just how he moves at that weight of 330 plus pounds. He has every trait that you want to being a piece to build around on offense and that offensive line.
You were kind of on the Sam Darnold train early. You were a few weeks before the Panthers traded.
Josh.
Well, a lot of people call that just excellent NFL insider stuff. Like,
Let's go with it.
You were working the phones. That's you got to take credit for this kind of stuff. When you put out this is the new style of reporting. It's not like, well, reportedly, like the Panthers are doing this. It's like, well, I think something that they might look into, and then when they do it, you're like, well, I've been telling you for weeks that this
literally
was
my tweet, Josh, said, I am not responsible for this, but this is my prediction. So that's a hedge, and the hedge worked out in this case.
What I like to do, and this might be a tip for the Underdog Fantasy Show, I like to work both sides of the fence. So I'll say something, and then like 45 seconds later, I'll say the complete opposite. So wherever you clip out, it's like, I think Penei Sewell, to me, is like the can't-miss prospect of this draft. And the other thing that I think also is that Penei Sewell has a lot of bust potential. And I'm just not sure that he's actually going to be the guy that you want 10 years down the road.
Maybe we should all do that with the number 3 pick and just say like, hey, the 49ers are taking Mac Jones. Hey, the 49ers are taking Trey Lance. Hey, the 49ers are taking Justin Fields, and then delete the other ones as soon as that pick happens. And then the only one that's there is the one that's right.
Yeah, well, that's the one that you retweet afterwards.
Exactly.
And I told you guys.
Look, we have figured out the content game, the 3 of us right now. We're going to be superstars.
We're not going to put this thing out. This is just going to be the 3 of us. Just us talking, just figuring it out. I'm
so glad I now have 2 fence sitter Joshes now in my life.
Yeah.
What's better than one? Two.